Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now May 19th of 2020, and ever since the release of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, a lot of fans have really been crossing their fingers that both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, as the Disney CEOs, can really drive Star Wars into a better direction to really give us hope about exactly how the new Star Wars universe is really going to utilize itself on Disney Plus and of course in theaters. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the thing about Disney Star Wars is that we do know that they are now in a position of damage control and a phase of desperation in order to really give us a different take on Star Wars, right? To really kind of shift the entire idea away from how the sequel trilogy was treated by, of course, writer and director Rian Johnson, and how that kind of derailed the franchise. We can see that there were attempts to really, kind of patch certain elements of that in The Rise of Skywalker, and even with the live-action TV shows like The Mandalorian Season 1, 2, and 3, that are actually going to be very, very big. Season 2, by the way, is going to really be off the charts with what they're doing with implementing a lot of Clone Wars characters in the form of live-action and so on and so forth. That's just for starters. So, moving on forward, the thing that really does intrigue me the most all has to do with, of course, what could have been for the sequel trilogy movies. And one thing is for certain is that Kathleen Kennedy is very incompetent as the head of Lucasfilm. I think that's pretty much common knowledge at this point in time. Thankfully, she lost her creative control and only has control over the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV series, which is good news. Now, with that being said, of course, now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are finished with The Rise of Skywalker, they are focused on their new Star Wars trilogy of films as well as the new Star Wars universe. Now, it's explained that currently both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are hard at work on developing a new Star Wars universe to create a better and brighter future for the Star Wars franchise in general. As of now, Kathleen Kennedy no longer has creative control over any existing Star Wars projects except for the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV series. However, before and after the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker, many interviews were given to the creators of the sequel trilogy as well as the actors of the Star Wars franchise. At one point in time, actor Adam Driver was questioned about Kathleen Kennedy's approach to the sequel trilogy involving Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, where at one point in time, Driver went on to reveal that he and Kathleen Kennedy discussed the fate of Ben Solo back in 2014, before The Force Awakens even arrived in theaters in 2015. And that Kennedy was the one to tell him that he would eventually turn to the light by the end of the third film of the trilogy. However, how it was going to be done was said to be a very complex and difficult process because of Kathleen Kennedy's approach. Adam Driver went on to reveal that the process of developing a straight answer to how Ben Solo would come to the light at the very end of the trilogy was a tough process because of Kathleen Kennedy and that originally J.J. Abrams wanted Driver to have tons of action with Palpatine toward the very end of the film, and that was shot down by Kathleen Kennedy. Now, Adam Driver went on to explain that Kathleen Kennedy didn't want much action for Ben Solo in the end, let alone any form of dialogue, as in her mind, it would destroy and demystify the character, where Kennedy wanted to make Ben Solo a mysterious character, to actually differ him from Kylo Ren by making him not speak for the very end of the movie. Now, Driver went on to reveal that there was a very powerful Reylo moment at the very end of the film that involved powerful dialogue between himself and Daisy Ridley's character Rey, and that originally Adam Driver was the one to initiate the kiss with Daisy Ridley's Rey at the very end of the movie, and that Ben Solo was going to roughly have a couple lines of dialogue to tell Rey just before he died. Driver went on to unveil that he trained hard for many of his scenes that were unfortunately cut from the film by Kennedy, and that at one point in time he was supposed to be alive on the world of Tatooine, that J.J. Abrams wanted a happy ending between both Rey and Ben Solo. However, Kennedy did not want this, as she wanted to intentionally end the Skywalker saga by killing off all of the Skywalkers once and for all to stop the possibility of future Skywalker saga movies so that they could finally let it all go. So the thing that bothers me the most here is how Kathleen Kennedy intentionally wanted to end Ben Solo only because she wanted to create the possibility of no Star Wars movies continuing that follow the Skywalkers. And that to me just sounds like that she wanted to further kind of initiate her own narrative, or her own agenda, if you will, right? To kind of just create things from the ground up with tons of identity politics, as we have discussed before in the past. The thing about this, when we look at everything related to Adam Driver, he really put in his all with this new Star Wars movie, obviously, right? Episode 9 was really a big deal for him as an actor, because this was really the big deal for him, because he knew about the fate of the character back in 2014, leading up to 2019 when it released in theaters. Now, further on that, of course, Kathleen Kennedy, we do know that she's really incompetent. This is another prime example. I really do believe that Ben Solo deserved a bit better toward the end of the film, though I was actually very much in tune with him going up against the Knights of Ren. I love that. I think it's great. But I think that we really need a lot more of what Ben Solo was able to do in the movie. So with that being said, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.